There are several things you need to pay attention to when doing auto-aim. The first thing is to make sure the penetration indicator is green when you are going to shoot. And as you can see, this method is very effective when playing with light tanks, where the majority of this type of tank has very good mobility and is the fastest among all types of tanks. Hey guys, so this time I will share knowledge and tips about auto-aim. I think this is quite important because when I saw other people in spectator mode, I saw that many of them made mistakes when auto-aiming. And this is one example, where this player always auto-aims. Doing auto-aim is not wrong, because the game provides that. But what is wrong is always relying on auto-aim, even though there is the opportunity to aim manually, which can find the enemy's weak points. I now rarely see people playing in spectator mode. Usually I will immediately go to the garage after my tank is destroyed. But in the past I often did this to find out what other people were doing when using their tanks. You can also do this if you're not in a hurry, and this will be useful for increasing your experience. Maybe you happen to be observing a good player, so you can learn how he plays. Here's another player I found making the same mistake. And I think there are still many other players making this mistake if we really pay attention. Maybe you are one of them who is watching this video. If that's true, then you are watching the right video, because I will tell you the best way to use auto-aim. Generally, mistakes like this are made by new players, and for me it is understandable. Especially if the player has less than 1,000 battles, but that doesn't mean all new players make mistakes like that, because many of them also learn quickly, and I hope you are one of them. To be honest, in the past I wasn't used to using auto-aim, and always aimed manually like this. It may sound strange, but that's what happened. And in this situation, we really shouldn't use auto-aim, because the enemy moves fast and it's impossible to hit him if we use auto-aim. So I remember, at that time watching other people playing in spectator mode, I saw him using auto-aim, his vehicle maneuvering quickly while shooting enemies, and he did it very well, and it amazed me because everything went very quickly and effectively. And this is roughly how it happened. Isn't that effective? Before I knew this, I had difficulty maneuvering because I always aimed manually, and it was not uncommon for my vehicle to crash into buildings or other vehicles, which should not have happened because it made my vehicle stop, and it would be easier for the enemy to aim and shoot me. So after I saw that person playing using auto-aim, I immediately found out and studied every detail, and as a result my game became much better after that. And as you can see, this method is very effective when playing with light tanks, where the majority of this type of tank has very good mobility and is the fastest among all types of tanks, so it can infiltrate quickly and target the enemy's weak points, which are generally on the side or behind. Apart from that, light tanks generally have a smaller size, and this coupled with their mobility makes this type of tank more difficult to aim, especially if this vehicle is always moving randomly. But that doesn't mean you can't do this when playing with other vehicles, because you can do it with all types of vehicles as long as you are sure the shells can penetrate the enemy's armor. And even when using SPG you can also do auto-aim like this. So, in general, auto-aim's function is to lock the target, so that the muzzle of the weapon will always follow the direction of the target automatically, and this can be done by any type of tank to make it more efficient and effective, as long as it is done correctly. As usual, I will explain the simplest things first so that they are easy for everyone to understand, especially beginners. Maybe there are those who still don't know how to do auto-aim. So to do auto-aim, the first thing you have to do is point the central marker at the enemy vehicle, then right-click on your mouse. As a sign, you will see red around the enemy tank when the central marker is right towards it. You can see the green dot on my central marker. I don't know what your display looks like, but if you want to change it you can go to the reticle settings, and you can change it however you like. Likewise with auto-aim, you can change it with other options on your keyboard, if you think it will make it easier for you. And don't get hung up on what other people do. Next, there are several things you need to pay attention to when doing auto-aim. The first thing is to make sure the penetration indicator is green when you are going to shoot. The second thing is that you have to stop for about 1 to 2 seconds before shooting, so that your reticle shrinks, and it would be better if it could shrink completely, and it all depends on the situation and conditions, if that is possible. But what is clear is that try not to shoot while your vehicle is still moving, especially if the distance is quite far like this, because when the vehicle is moving your reticle is in maximum bloom, and of course that will make your shot more likely to miss. But if the enemy vehicle is very close like this, then you can shoot while moving and it won't be a problem as long as the penetration indicator is green. Apart from that, what you need to pay attention to is, within a certain distance and when the vehicle is moving like this example, the size of the reticle is not much larger than the size of the enemy vehicle. And it would be better if the reticle size matches or is smaller than the enemy's vehicle size, because that means you won't miss, because as we discussed in the previous video about accuracy, the shell will always aim and be in the reticle circle even though not always in the center. And as you can see, when auto-aiming I can maneuver more freely because I can see the vehicle more clearly from this position, and can also see the movement of the enemy vehicle and follow it so that my vehicle is always next to it. The goal is not only to target weak points, but also to avoid being shot. Next are tips for auto-aiming at moving enemy vehicles. Even though it's difficult, that doesn't mean it can't be done as long as you know how. And in this case what you need to pay attention to is the turret speed, enemy vehicle speed and shell speed, and you need to find the right time when you want to shoot. For example, when the enemy moves forward or backwards from your position, that is a good time to shoot, because the enemy moves straight. And if you are in a situation where you are chasing an enemy, apart from waiting for him to move straight, you also need to move straight towards the enemy. Or if your vehicle is faster you can continue following him from behind if he tries to run away. So basically the purpose of auto-aim is to lock the target and make it easier for you to shoot and maneuver, as long as you know how, and know when is the right time to do it. In this situation without auto-aim I would have very difficulty maneuvering, and would likely hit a wall and then stop, and of course the enemy would be very easy to shoot me. And before I knew how to auto-aim, this happened to me often and I almost always hit walls, because it was very difficult to see the terrain and buildings around me when aiming manually. So I think it's very important to know how to do this, because apart from being effective, the game also feels much more fun, especially if you meet an enemy who has difficulty dealing with you. We already know clearly that auto-aim is to lock the target, but perhaps there are still many who don't know other tricks for using auto-aim like the following. In some areas on the map there are several buildings that can be destroyed, for example this brick fence. And it will block the penetration indicator. We can't even see the target position clearly because of it. So with auto-aim it will make it easier for us to determine the target position, and even though it doesn't penetrate the enemy's armor on the first shot, and sometimes the shell might just get stuck or stopped by the building, at least we destroy the building that is blocking it, so that the next shot we will be able to aim and clearly see the enemy's weak points using the penetration indicator, if the enemy is still alive and in the same place of course. So in situations and conditions like this, it is the right and best way to use auto-aim, because it will make us more effective, and we will no longer be confused about seeing indicators that don't work because they are blocked by the buildings. And what we need to pay attention to is whether the muzzle of our weapon is pointing correctly towards the target, then whether there are no other buildings in the way, such as rocks or houses that cannot be destroyed, then whether the enemy does not hide part of the body of his vehicle behind these buildings. So for that we also need to position our tank well before firing, so that the shell is not blocked by buildings that cannot be destroyed. Then if the enemy hides part of the vehicle's body behind a building, then don't use auto-aim, because auto-aim only aims at the middle of the enemy vehicle. And if the enemy hides part of his vehicle behind a building, of course we will only hit the building, so we have to aim manually for this and cannot use auto-aim in this situation. Likewise, when the enemy is in a sunken area, and only part of the vehicle is visible, auto-aim will not work well, because we will most likely shoot the ground, so we should aim manually for this. And we also can't use auto-aim on vehicles that are moving fast from the side, especially if the distance is far like this, because it's impossible to hit the target. And to hit a moving target like this we have to shoot several meters in front of it, and to determine the distance and when to shoot you need your instincts to see the speed of the target and the speed of your shell. One of the other advantages of using auto-aim is that we won't get confused and have too much difficulty if there are lots of enemies, like this. So we can lock on to one of the enemy vehicles, and usually I will choose the one with the weakest armor first, then we can shoot it quickly and retreat quickly too. So by doing everything quickly the enemy will usually have difficulty aiming at us, and only by using auto-aim can we do this. Hopefully all this information can be useful and help you in the game, and if your vehicle's accuracy is too bad you can see my previous video about accuracy, and do what you can to improve your vehicle's accuracy. And if your vehicle's accuracy is still poor, then it's likely that the vehicle is prioritized for close combat, and don't be a sniper with a vehicle like that, especially a camper at the back, because the results won't be good at all for you and your team. I have proven all this information and I always do it in games, but of course this will not 100% always happen as expected, because there will always be some exceptions, and it depends on your luck, or in this game what is usually called RNG. And this is one example, where I shot while the vehicle was moving, and managed to damage the enemy vehicle. The distance is long and the reticle is also at maximum bloom, but fortunately my luck is also at its maximum. And this also happens often, where the RNG or my luck is bad. But after all, this is just a game and for fun, and we can only try and do our best. As for the results, let fate decide. What is clear is that our goal in playing is to have fun, and don't forget that, so focus on that and ignore the things that are not fun. Thank you for watching, see you soon.